What is going on, Internet? Welcome to another episode of Do As We Say, Not As They Did, the only dating advice podcast that's going to tell you how to navigate through looking at other people's poor decisions. I am your host, Harris O'Malley, also known as Dr. Nerdlove, and with me, as always, they are a real doctor. They are a sex educator. They are not the gatekeeper to my keymaster because they reject gatekeeping in all forms, and Gozer
I
did
do.
not appreciate that.
I
Bring
feel so
you
seen.
Dr. Liz.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Yes, K-pop Demon Hunters is my entire personality. For those of you watching the video, you can see I'm wearing a Soda Pop t-shirt. It's got each of the different Saja boys and their own little soda because K-pop Demon Hunters is the best. That's from a therapist. Anyway,
I feel like one of them really should just be a Monster Energy drink, and one of them should just be a bottle of balls.
I mean, I feel like Monster Energy is too on the nose, and it would reinforce all of the shitty conservative talking points that, like, Monster Energy has the mark of the beast, which is the funniest fucking thing ever. Because, like, you're right, and also you're so wrong. So, Harris, what are you inflicting on me today?
Well, there was the one that I felt like maybe this is time to do the Nut Maxer episode,
Oh, God.
but yeah, no, I feel like we need to really kind of let that one build a bit, just kind of gotta edge it for a little while.
Gotta edge it for a while. Make sure
Yeah,
it's
really kind
nice
of
and full.
maximize it.
Yeah, I gotta max that
We're
nut when we get
absolutely
there.
getting demonetized within 5 minutes of starting this episode. It's great.
We can have Allie bleep out stuff. Allie is my amazing virtual assistant. I love her. She's fantastic. But if we want to be monetized, we can just have her bleep some of the early stuff. Because, yeah, that'll absolutely get us demonetized. I think YouTube's not a fan of nut maxing. Because they're
But instead decided to keep you all on edge for just a little bit longer, and instead wanted to bring you a one from 404 Media, an independent news site, which I highly recommend folks subscribe to. They do great work covering all sorts of internet and digital media. And it is titled Viral Cheater Buster Sites Use Facial Recognition to Let Anyone Reveal People's Tinder Profiles.
Jesus. Okay, so I want to do a quick aside here, which is I don't know if you were tracking many years ago, like somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago, there was a big scandal because FetLife had an issue where you could hack it to be able to search for like women under a certain age. And so a bunch of women were getting spammed on FetLife. Those of you who don't know, FetLife is like a social media sort of for kinky people. It's a website oriented towards kinky folks. So they have like groups that you can be part of, events list there. It's like, imagine if social media, the UI never improved past MySpace, and it also tried to be a discussion board. So it's like the ugliest thing you've ever logged into. And also, if you are someone who is read as a woman, you'll have so many fucking men dropping into your DMs to either tell you what a great dominant they're going to be if only you're the right kind of submissive that never says no and does exactly what they say, or how you're going to be their mommy dom who gives them all these things they exactly want, because why would any man ever care about what someone they perceive as a woman wants for themselves? But it was a huge deal because FetLife is supposed to be very secure, and so this idea that you could search just and find people within an age range or find these profiles that you weren't supposed to be linked to was a big problem. And of course, some app somewhere was like, hold my beer, I can make this worse.
It's inevitable that this was going to happen, especially with the rise of all of the wearables that have cameras in them,
God.
like all of the really fun, creepy people who are using like the Meta smart glasses to spy on folks, the increasing ubiquity of facial recognition software, and the fact that we're all living all of our lives online. And that's pretty much exactly how the 404 starts. The nut graph is literally videos demoing one of these sites have repeatedly gone viral on TikTok and other media platforms recently. 404 Media verified that they can locate specific people's Tinder profiles using their photo and found that the viral videos are produced by paid creators.
Oh, God. I have not read this article. Harris is forcing it upon me. But like my concern, even just reading this headline and the like sub headline, is just how prone this is to abuse by people who are abusers trying to find their victims, who are stalkers, people who are just like all kinds of terrible creeps doing the worst kind of thing. And like, to some extent, my heart goes out to people who are worried that their partner is cheating. Like, I understand that that is a terrible thing to feel, that you can't trust this person. You know, I'm in a Facebook group that's the Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook group. And basically, it's a group where it's only for quote women. You can like post information and pictures about a guy to see if other people are dating them or have had bad experiences with them. And like, on the one hand, women have had these kinds of whisper networks forever because we have to, because you know, as the adage goes, men are worried women will laugh at them, women are worried men will kill them. And it is fucking dangerous out there, especially in this day and age. And if you have the technology to be able to find out from more people to build a bigger whisper network, that's great. But also, I know of people who those groups have been used to like demonize a dude they were dating so no one would date them, as a way for an abusive partner to keep her man from being able to date new people. It is something that is really sticky. And anytime you have like a big tech like this that can go through a bunch of dating profiles, look, I'm a psychologist. As of this recording, it will probably not be true by the time this goes out. My job is in a jail. I do assessments for people for intellectual disabilities, learning disabilities in a jail setting. Before that job, I worked in a prison. This kind of tech could let one of my former patients find me anywhere on the internet. And that is fucking scary. Now, granted, I'm not the best example for that. My face is fucking everywhere. Like, if you search, I'm under my real name on the internet. But I think of a lot of the sex educators I know, or people who are sex workers, people who are strippers, and like the way that this would give people access to their private social medias, to like their dating apps, to these places where they want to have a certain degree of anonymity and not be found by these other people. It's like this huge violation of privacy, of like boundaries that we set up for ourselves.
Yeah, it's like you said, it can come off as seeming a little bit rich as two people who are, you know, recording their faces and voices for multiple different platforms talking about privacy and this is bad. But no, that is one of the things that comes up almost immediately in the article. In fact, there is a quote within the third paragraph. I think that an app that allows you to find the dating app profile and general location of a person based on just one photo is an excellent tool for stalkers, Ava Galperin, director of cybersecurity at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, told 404 Media. A lot of this stuff is framed as tools to catch cheaters is perfect for abusers in the same way that tools to catch thieves are perfect for stalkers.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this in one of our previous episodes. Tech, the way that our tech culture is currently, it does not consider the potential ethical implications, moral implications, abuse implications of the tech it creates. It just creates the tech. Like those fucking Meta smart glasses, if you wear those, you deserve to be punched in the face every time you exit the door with them on your face. Like, you just do. You deserve to be wrecked, because how fucking dare you violate everybody around you's privacy that way? Like, that is so fucked up. And it was within like a month or two of their release that someone had already released a video with software they had created that would use the images they were getting from the glasses to search the internet for people and find them and be able to like act like they had known that person before, because they could pull up all this information about them. It's so fucked up. And it's just like dudes being dudes, not thinking about how this shit is going to hurt other people.
And there was also almost immediately people figuring out how to hack or mod their glasses so that they didn't have the little like light come on that says they were recording. This is a digression, but I find it absolutely fascinating because I am a tech guy. I am a gadget guy. I love my little like semi-useless plastic little doohickeys that just do one thing kind of cool. I have bought so many retro handheld emulators at this point that it's probably an actual problem. I say, looking at my technically not a Game Boy that's sitting just off camera. But it's fascinating for me, at least, to see how things have gone, because in the mid to 90s, when Warren Ellis was writing a comic series called Transmetropolitan, one of the things that I thought was the coolest damn things that he came up with were smart glasses that his journalist character Spider Jerusalem wore that could take photos. I
Spider
thought that was the
Jerusalem as a
coolest
name
thing.
goes hard.
I
That,
would
that
have
goes hard.
Yeah, I mean, because he couldn't call him Hunter S. Thompson, despite that being obviously who it was.
I mean,
It's fascinating to me that I have gone from seeing those glasses going like, okay, maybe not those specific ones, but some glasses that could take photos, so that I can frame things with my eyes so I get it exactly as I'm seeing it. Oh, that's awesome. To now to no, it's on site for someone who's wearing those. I don't care if they're recording or not. It's fascinating how much all of that's changed.
yeah,
And
and I think it is there's so much stuff that, like, if you're watching a TV show or reading a book, seems super cool and interesting, but then when you think about the, like, actual real world implications, becomes a huge fucking problem. Because again, in theory, would it be great to have glasses that remind me of the names of everybody that I've met, because I'm terrible at that? Yeah,
God,
that'd be fucking
yes.
awesome. It could give me like a little note of like, this is where you met this person, this is what you talked about. That'd be fucking great. But you know what? That's not what people end up using it for. People end up using it for shitty, creepy, nefarious purposes, and it's not cool. And someone in tech should have thought about that, but they don't hire people who are subject to abuse, because why would they do that? Those people obviously aren't as good as they are.
Yeah, like if it had real-time translation of signs or language, subtitles, real-world subtitles for people who are hard of hearing, or even just like you were saying, the who are you, where do I know you from, what are some facts that I remember about you, because as with my cursed ass ADHD brain, I'm good with faces, less so with names. There are a lot of times where someone will tell me their name and I'll just have to be like, look, you said it 3 times, but every time all I heard was a dial tone. I'm sorry. It's going to take me a
Same.
few.
Same. Look, here's the thing. I was at a dinner once at Reed Mahalko's house. There's this guy at the table who looked really familiar. And I was like, you look really familiar. Where do I know you from? And I'm like, were you at this conference? Were you at this event? We couldn't figure it out. He was like, you look really familiar too. Almost like halfway, maybe more than halfway through the dinner, all of a sudden it hits me. I'm like, wait, you fisted me at a party at Reed's house. And like, if I can forget someone who's put their whole hand inside me, it's not you, it's me. Like, I don't remember names. It's just not something I'm good at.
I remember names, but I remember the texture of every knuckle.
Well, okay, so the thing about that fisting though is that it wasn't like we weren't like, I'm so hot for you, let's do this. He had said during the opening circle he wanted more practice fisting like pussies. And I was like, I have a friendly pussy, let's go. And so like it was more of a like show and tell session than like hot steamy sex. Like it was fun, but it wasn't like anyway, different kind of lives than some people live. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was going to say there's just a whole lot of people who are just sitting here going like, my life looks nothing like this. I don't know. Just
It's
maybe
like a
this
high
podcast
five
isn't for me. I
with
don't know if
different
I can
kinds of
relate.
friends. I don't know. Like some people high five with two hands, some people it's a hand in something. You never know. Okay.
Working
Okay.
someone like a Muppet. It's great. There, I do want to say though, to drag this kicking and screaming back to the topic,
Yes.
there is so much. This is a rich text of just like so many things going on at the same time, starting with just the absolute privacy violations, and especially with apps like Tinder in particular, is the fact that the Tinder, as I'm sure all of you know, tells you who's around you. It's based on like a geo-fenced area. So you're setting it to like, all right, show me the people who are, my within the age range, gender, relationship style, vaccine status, etc., within a 10-mile radius of me right now. And that in and of itself, theoretically you're not supposed to be able to access that from the apps, but these apps that they've done, but Cheater Buster, which used to be around previously according to 404 under Swipe Buster, can in fact find the correct person as the top result on facial recognition. And then when you click on the results, to quoting from the article here, clicking on the results showed where that person had recently used Tinder. In the first case, the result was accurate to a specific neighborhood in Los Angeles the person had visited. In the other, the result pointed to the particular part of Brooklyn that that person lived in.
Oh
Both
God.
locations were slightly outdated, but were still recent locations these people had visited.
That's so fucked up.
Cheater Busters does require users to enter a target's known or suspected first name, age, and city, but the results provide options in case the provided information is inaccurate. Users can select face matches, different names to see if people who look like the photo they uploaded. The results also show a list of people with similar names and ages in case the information is slightly off. They can also turn on a Show Everyone feature, which displays all results for the age range, regardless of the name entered.
No, 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 no. This is like the biggest fucking nightmare I can think of.
Someone's
God.
going to die. That's the long and short of it. Someone is going to die because of this. I
Yeah,
really
because
wish
like
I could say that that was hyperbole, but the fact that
no, it's not.
if you've ever, the audience, if you have ever watched people play GeoGuessers and the way that people can figure out where someone is from such little information, that alone is scary in and of itself. But when someone can tell that, oh, you've used Tinder in this neighborhood, even if it's one that you're just visiting, that you're not normally, that you don't live in, that's still giving someone a search area. That's still saying this may or may not be a reliable place to like start looking for you. Like
Yeah.
that in and of itself is just terrifying.
Yeah, and God, when you're saying someone's going to die, like that's not an exaggeration. As with many people who work in the carceral justice system, I watch a lot of true crime, and to anyone who has ever been read as a woman or been in an abusive relationship, you probably know that police just don't take that shit seriously at all. Like if someone is stalking you, they don't fucking care until they try to kill you. Until they have actually done something really, really, really fucked up, they don't care. And even then sometimes they don't care. Like I watched a show about someone who this guy came in and totally fucking trashed her house. And the police were like, well, I don't know what you want us to do. It's just they don't fucking care. And so this is basically handing abusers and stalkers the easiest fucking way to be able to find anyone they want anytime.
And part of what gets me about this, beyond the fact that it's stalkerware, is honestly just the fact that it's playing to people's paranoia in a way that I think is really unhealthy.
Yeah.
We were talking about this before we started recording everything, and you mentioned, the idea of being in the "are we dating the same man" groups. A
Yeah.
you know When I first read about those, that was a moment where I'm just kind of like, on the one hand, I see the value in this. On the other hand, I see so many ways that this could be horribly abused. And, it probably says something that I immediately kind of latched onto the "this could get horribly abused" part because, cis straight man, so I don't have necessarily the same concerns. But the level of turning everyone's attention to the worst case scenarios of, is your guy cheating or is he real? Is your person active on Tinder or whatnot? I feel like this is playing into a lot of unhealthy patterns around relationships and a lot of unhealthy, like, just attitudes or fears or anxieties that people have. This is a thing that I say that gets me into trouble with a lot of my readers sometimes, but I honestly don't think that cheating is the worst thing that can happen in a relationship, depending on context and circumstance.
It depends. Yeah.
And I think this reinforces a lot of the idea that your partner has to be perfect, that there can be no flaws, that there can be nothing wrong. They have to do everything perfect. And the slightest thing that goes wrong is reason enough to dump someone.
Yeah.
And everyone's got the right to set their boundaries where they want, but there are a lot of times where I think that the focusing on the negative, focusing on, trying to protect yourself to such a degree really, really ends up causing more harm than good,
I think I see both sides, right? Like with those "are we dating the same guy" groups, again, watching a lot of true crime, there have been a lot of cases of men who horrifically abuse a partner.
Mm.
They don't get put in jail for it. They go on, date a new person, horrifically abuse that person, don't get put in jail for it, go on, horrifically abuse another person. And I've seen in that group that I'm in, someone be able to be like, hey, FYI, I just started seeing this person, and have like 4 people in the group be like, don't date him. This is what he did to me. He put me in the hospital, right? Like there are these ways that it is very important to have that safety. And in a very large connected world, sometimes it is easier for those folks to fly under the radar. If you lived in a town with 1,000 people, you'd probably know if he'd beaten up one of his exes. But if you live in the San Francisco Bay Area and he's dating all over the bay, you're never going to fucking know that unless you happen to be in the same communities. And so there is this element of it can be genuinely dangerous, particularly as a woman or someone who dates cis men, to date out there. Not that it is only cis men who abuse, but like the majority of the interpersonal
Statistically
violence that results
speaking,
in,
it's
like, if we're
yeah.
talking about serious injuries and murders, mostly it's done by cis dudes. But also, the thing is, cheating happens a lot in relationships. I understand why, for people, to them is a thing that they can't come back from. And I say this as someone who, I've written about it. I cheated on my ex husband. I told him immediately because I felt so horrible and guilty about it. But the thing about cheating, particularly if it's more than like, I got drunk and fucked someone and came back and told you immediately, is that it then creates this base of lies that everything else is built on, and makes it hard to trust anything within that relationship. Because if
Yeah.
they could lie to you about all of these different things in all these different ways, how do you know anything is true? But what I would say to folks is that part of a relationship is choosing to trust. And if you do not feel like you can choose to trust someone, if you don't feel like you can get to that place of trusting them, then you can't be in that relationship. Um, I think these days it is hard to trust people because it is so easy to cheat. You've got so many different apps where you can find people, you've got so many different places where you can make that happen so easily. And we're so interconnected that it's very easy to cheat, particularly if you care about like your partner sexting someone else, or like these kind of like not physical cheating, but like emotional or text or whatever cheating kind of things. But also, the only way you are ever going to be able to guarantee that your partner never cheats is to handcuff yourself to them and never sleep. That's the only way. So, unless you're willing to do that, at some point you're going to have to choose to trust. And I think you need to figure out, like, this anxiety you feel about them cheating, how much of that is yours and coming from your fears, and how much of that is your intuition letting you know something's wrong. If you can't trust someone, you can't build a relationship with them. You just can't. There's no building a relationship where there's not trust there. And that's why I say with cheating, like, if you don't feel like you can get back to a place of trusting that person, you shouldn't stay with them after cheating, because you can't have a relationship without trust. But I feel like these kinds of tools, the thing about this kind of fear and anxiety, which is similar to what we tell folks who have PTSD, right? When people have PTSD, their brain, in order to keep them safe, becomes hypervigilant. It finds a lot of threats that are not present. Our brain is constantly, for every single person, looking for potential threats, because that is how we stay alive. And because that is how we stay alive, the systems in our brain that do that are very old portions of our brain that get a whole lot of override authority on the newer portions of our brain, like our frontal lobes, where we do thinking, logic, planning, right? And so if that center in our brain decides there is a threat, it can override all of our logic and determine that we need to treat it like a threat. The problem is, if your brain is over perceiving threats where they aren't there, the only way to fix it is to let your brain freak out, do the thing anyway, and then let your brain see that nothing happened. The metaphor I'll use is, if I told you there's a monster outside the door, what is the only way to prove me wrong? If you stay in here because you're worried that there's a monster, you're literally never going to prove me wrong. The only way to find out if I'm telling the truth is to open the door and see if there's a monster there. And the thing about these apps is that instead of encouraging people to like sit with their feeling and figure out what part of this is me, what part of this is that this relationship isn't working, they instead like reinforce that anxiety cycle, which is going to make it worse and worse and worse over time. It is going to make them more and more concerned about every little thing. Well, this app didn't catch them, and maybe that's just because they're so good at it that they were able to hide these things. Maybe they aren't using a face photo, and that's why I can't catch them. It's going to cause that anxiety system to get more and more amped up and more active, which that makes it harder and harder and harder for you to come back down from that and find trust. What I would say to people is, like, if you're at the point of buying an app to make sure your partner isn't cheating, just break up instead. It's done. This relationship is already done because you don't have any trust there. So what are you doing? Why are you dragging the corpse of this relationship behind you when you could just have a life where you do have trust? Like, it's better to be single, I promise.
And honestly, there's also the likelihood, especially with considering that they're talking about like apps like Tinder. This is going to sound like excuse making. It's not. And just stick with me for a second. of false positives.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of times, and I've gotten letters from folks, some of which were believable, some of which were pretty obviously someone covering their ass, talking about how their partner found their old online dating profile, usually Tinder, sometimes Hinge, sometimes OkCupid. And in some cases, yeah, they were still active on there. In other cases, they weren't. They had honestly forgotten that they had the account, or they never completed the pause or shut down the account thing. And there are lots of times where people can and log into old accounts even when they're in relationships for innocent reasons. Yes, I realize I sound like I'm excuse making, but I can think of several times where
Yeah.
I've done it. I've opened OkCupid despite not being active on there, specifically because I had a whole bunch of notifications that I needed to clear out.
Yeah.
And
Like the yeah.
so if someone is suitably motivated, they're gonna see what they want to see where they want to see it, whether it's there or not, which this is the sort of thing that can cause problems. And because my brain goes to increasingly baroque and increasingly like, bizarre ways that this could get abused, but we're living in an increasingly baroque and weird cyberpunk dystopia. I can also see ways that this gets weaponized against people. The first thing I thought
Yeah.
upon reading this was thinking about things like the Whatever podcast, which is a whole discussion in and of itself that we'll have to talk about at some point.
Oh no.
But seeing people who like fans of that show or what have you deciding to take things to an extra level by using these apps to, dox or bust the women who are on that show. Or dudes deciding to use the apps like this to try to dox or find the real names and locations of OnlyFans models or porn
Oh.
performers or other
Yeah.
sex workers
Yeah.
because they think that either it's fun to hunt them down or to punish them for doing sex work or for being sexually available. And then the next thing that I thought, which I feel got a little bit validated by the way that they market some of this, is just people doing vigilante content slop. From the article, Cheater Buster has gained much more attention recently after TikTok and Instagram accounts posted a tsunami of videos promoting Cheater Buster and its facial recognition capabilities. In one, a man interviews a couple and appears to do a facial recognition search of the woman, revealing a Tinder profile in her name.
Oh
In one
god.
brain rot video, where a second clip, in this case a farming video game, also plays on the screen, a man talks to a couple and demos Cheater Buster to them. They allegedly find the man's profile in Tinder after performing a facial recognition search.
And
And
the paragraph above that talks about like this tech has been sold to ICE. All cops are bastards. Yeah, no, it's so bad. It's just
yeah, like if you remember the West Elm Mike, West Elm,
yeah, that dude.
what was
Who
that
was just
dude's
kind of a
name?
shitty dude. And like, look, I'm of two minds of the West Elm, whatever his
Caleb.
bro
West
name
Elm
was.
Caleb. Thank you.
Cause like on the one hand, he was a shitty fuck boy. On the other hand, does that deserve a public canceling? I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
but it reminds me of all the people who tracked him down for being, a bad date, but a guy who didn't really necessarily do anything wrong, to, TikTok videos where everybody decided that a guy who didn't get off the couch fast enough when his long distance girlfriend, showed up, as a surprise, immediately decided that he must be cheating. And they all started digging into his life looking for proof that he was cheating or that he was a horrible
yeah.
person.
And
People,
like you run into
yeah.
this thing here where like you can't prove a negative. You can never
Mhm.
prove someone is not cheating, right? You can prove they are, but like you can't ever prove the negative. There's always going to be a like, well, you could have blank, you could have blank. Like there's always going to be hypothetical possibilities. We can't prove it. So you have to at some point choose to trust. And if you can't, then like what are we doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, but
What are
it's not
you
even
doing?
necessarily the person in the relationship doing it so much as other people taking it upon themselves to seek out cheaters, to seek out, malefactors amongst us, and then record it and post it because it's such great viral content. I mean, imagine how amazing the views would be if there's a lot of discourse to be had about people who are live streaming or live tweeting people's conversations on planes. Like the guy who famously, someone was tweeting about a guy flirting with someone on a plane who turned out to be married, and the internet knew about it by the time the plane landed. Imagine someone doing something like overhearing a conversation and then deciding to film first them using this app to seek out whether or not this person had a dating profile, and then going over to just, either confront them or to sidle up to the person they're with, going like, hey, I don't know if you know this and you don't know me, but I felt it was really important for you to know that your boyfriend is currently on Tinder. Like,
Yeah. You remember back
maybe
when
I'm
we
a
used to
doomer in
have
that way, but I see this
lives?
happening.
Do you remember when we used to have lives that weren't all content? Like when you used to just like do things in your life and no one on the internet knew about it? You remember that time?
Not really, because I've been doing
You remember
stuff on
that
the internet
time?
since 1995, honestly.
But still, like there was stuff in your life that wasn't on the internet. Like,
True.
you know, I was on MySpace. I was on like Yahoo chat groups, but there weren't a fuck ton of pictures of me all over the internet. I didn't take pictures of every meal to put them up. I didn't talk about everything that was happening in my life. It was a different. I feel like you and I are in this like small window of time where like we were young enough to be able to understand the tech as it started and as things revolutionized and still be able to like be a part of it and understand it, but like old enough to remember the time before. Whereas like kids these days, man, it's bananas. And you bring up the thing about like the airplane person. There was an episode of Madam Secretary that had a similar thing happen where the main character's husband was on this flight and talking to a girl on the flight who was flying back to, I think it was Afghanistan, with her family. And they just had a conversation on the flight because she had been there for some award, but someone on the internet took pictures of it and posted it as like this love story. And so by the time they landed, her family was going to stone her for being a harlot. So
Yeah.
like I feel like this intrusion into other people's lives is so fucking messy. And posting a video of this person doing this thing that you don't know, you didn't get their permission, you don't know what's happening there. Like, I feel like that is such a terrible thing that has become normalized. Because it's one thing if you're taking a video of someone like assaulting someone or like ICE agents being dicks everywhere, take all the video of those fuckers. But like, just people being people, even like someone yelling at a gate agent, like, is that person a jerk? Yes. Do they need to be on the internet for that forever? I don't think so. And I feel like it's created this heightened surveillance state
Hmm.
that is a problem for all of us. And like on the one hand, we want to be able to see these terrible people get their comeuppance, but on the other hand, like what are we fucking doing when we're creating a society where your worst day could be caught on video and define you for the rest of your fucking life? Especially when your worst day is something that's like yelling at a gate agent. Are you being a dick? Yes. Is that okay? Absolutely not. Do you deserve to have your life ruined for it? And so many like shitty people apologists say these kinds of things about people who genuinely needed to be exposed, and like there is a line, right? Like I feel like there's a
Yeah.
difference, and I feel like it's this flattening of either you get to do this to expose everybody with no limits, or you're apologize for all the abusers and thinking they should be able to stand on the radar forever. And I think that we need to find more nuance here of like, when is it really worth using this tech to make something super fucking public versus when should we maybe let people have a bad day and be a jerk and not be painted all over the internet for it?
Yeah. And I can also just see, so my problem is, like I said, as much as I can see some limited value for this, I just literally, last week from when we recorded this, posted a letter from someone who wrote in because they were afraid to ask out someone they liked because there is a culture in their high school of just recording people for cringe clips. He was afraid that if he asked
Don't
her
do
out
that.
and stuttered or got shot down, that somebody was going to be surreptitiously recording it and it was going to rocket all over Snapchat amongst their school, or even worse, break containment. So I do think we've reached a point where there's so many people who think of other people's lives as content
Yeah.
and don't think about the consequences of it, or don't care about the consequences of it. And another thing I just, thinking about with this sort of thing, what, not just false positives, not necessarily someone cheating, but someone using these apps and finding out stuff about their, their date, their partner or whatnot, that's not necessarily bad, but that they don't care for or that bothers them,
Yeah.
that would then cause more problems for someone who had done nothing wrong. There are, imagine someone going on a date with somebody and finding out that the person they're on a date with is poly, and using Cheater Buster and finding out that they're on Field or Open or or another app. Polyamory is
If
still
you're
something that
poly,
can,
you should be out. If you're dating people and you're poly, they should know you're poly.
Sorry.
granted,
Yeah.
like fully granted, yes, I do think that not telling someone that you're poly when you're on a date is, not a great thing. But polyamory is something, and multiple, having multiple concurrent partners is something that could come up in, divorce proceedings,
Yeah.
or that could be used as reason to fire you from a job. Poly and ethically non-monogamous people aren't a protected class,
Custody
and people
proceeding happens
have
a
had
lot.
problems like child custody cases going
Mhm.
hellishly wrong because they're non-monogamous. And I could
Housing
see
as well,
someone
because it's not a
doing that.
protected class. People say that they're roommates, but they're actually a poly family and they've been
Mhm.
evicted because the
Yeah,
landlord finds out that they're poly and not just roommates,
yeah,
which is like so fucking bullshit.
or someone who is kinky, someone who has
Yeah.
a profile on FetLife where they are not doing anything wrong, but
Yeah.
someone in their life doesn't approve of kink or any
Yeah.
sort of deviant sex, that they're having, and uses this maliciously against them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I feel like those are much worse outcomes than the possibility of someone cheating going under the radar, which again, I don't think that that's a good thing. I don't think cheaters need to
No.
get away with it. But I think
Yeah.
that the way that this is being marketed and the way that it's being pitched is, honestly, the more I talk about it, the more I'm fairly certain that it's a bait and switch. It's being
Yeah.
marketed one way, but its real use is another. And I think its real use is more stalkerware than anything else.
Yeah. It's stalkerware, it's shameware. It's like the comment that you made about like kids these days, like everything in their lives is for content. It makes me so sad because it's so hard to have a life when you feel like you're always being watched. And I
Mhm.
also feel like that willingness to post this terrible thing that happened or this like person being cringe. It's just a classic example of the like the fundamental attribution error where like if we're cringe, obviously it's a situational thing. It's not our fault. It's not about us. We wouldn't deserve to be shamed for it. But that person being cringe, they deserve it, obviously. Like this is who they are at their core. And I wish kids got to have the experience of a life where everything is not for content. Everything is not for the internet. Everything is not for clicks and views. Like high school was hard enough when it was just about like people looking at who you're friends with and who you're spending time with in the lunchroom and who you go to prom with. I can't
Yeah.
imagine it being like this ever present, you know? Like
There are a
who's
lot
in
of
your
times where I feel
MySpace
like,
top however
sorry,
many, but like God, it's just so bad. And I feel for these kids.
there I've said it before and I'll say it again. There are times I feel like graduating high school before the internet was like getting the last chopper out of Saigon.
Before smartphone
I
cameras. Before smartphone cameras. Like that's
God, Jesus, yes, and both of those, especially because I know what I was like in middle school and high school, and I can all but guarantee I would have been a 4chaner. I would have been on 4chaner. I would have been a gooner on something awful. There's a lot of my life that I look back on and go, there, but for the grace of God, go I.
yeah.
Same thing with the incel community. Considering what I was like in high school, I probably would have been at high risk for having, if I had found the incel community, having joined it at first, being like, oh, these other people can understand my pain. And then the slow degradation to, fours only want chads, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, like there's a lot of mixed feelings here.
Yeah.
And taking it back to the stated purpose of this is another thing where, again, I feel weird about talking about more about the danger of this, because I do think that there's a lot of value to be had in groups like Are We Dating the Same Guy?
Yeah.
And using, and, as you said, the whisper networks that women have had since time immemorial. And I just I see stuff like this and I see so many of the dangers of it, and it's just one of those moments of like, I totally want people to be safe. I want people to be able to, ice out malefactors, bad actors, people who are dangerous. But there are times I feel like the enthusiasm gets ahead of the rationality of it. When you're looking for bad actors, how do you make sure that you're not going overboard or going too far, and things are spiraling so that the definition of who's bad, who needs to be exposed, doesn't go beyond the bounds of what the intended purpose was. I realize this makes me sound like an apologist, which is
Well,
not what
no,
I'm trying
it's
to
it's
do.
the classic Jurassic Park problem. Like,
Yeah,
we only thought about whether we could, not whether we should. Again, I can see the like rose tinted glasses version of this app of like, I've been hurt deeply in the past. I know people who have been hurt deeply. This would allow them to find these things out. They would be able to know. They would be able
exactly.
to see that this person is doing this thing to them. And maybe that data sucks. Also, you can just set an age range for an area. That's definitely not going to be abused. It's one of those things where I feel like every tech company should have a group of rabidly feminist blue hair pronouns. Like, we know what it's like to be targeted. Preferably, a
Mhm.
lot of folks in that group would be not white, who can just look at the app and be like, hey, have you thought about someone using it this way? Because that scares the fuck out of me. So that the tech companies would have to address that before they rolled out the tech. Because it's always roll out the tech. What's that? It's being used for horrible abuses? Well, maybe it's
Oops.
not that bad. Because
Yeah,
it's never
like,
immediately like, let's fix it. It's like, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's isolated. I think it's going to be okay. And then eventually they deal with it.
yeah, or we're taking this very seriously and we will code an answer to solve the problem, ignoring the fact that it's going to take forever for the code solution to come out, and then the first thing that's going to happen is the same people are going to go right back and then find a different exploit.
Find an
That's
exploit,
what's
yeah.
been happening with the Meta glasses. Meta saying, oh, we take this seriously, we were going to update the firmware, but it's like, okay, great, but that doesn't change the problem, and you're
Yeah.
not faster than these hackers
Yeah.
in the
And that's the
assumption that you even
thing.
think that this is a problem in the first place. It's like you were saying, I really want to like double down on what you were saying. Yeah, there should be people, women, people of color, definitely people of color, trans people, queer people, all of who look at this and
Sex
go,
workers.
I can tell you exactly how this is going to be used against people like me.
Oh, if they'd asked a sex worker about this tech, they would have known, like, once ask any one sex worker about this tech, they would have been able to tell you exactly what the problems are
Yeah,
immediately.
especially like earlier when we were saying that there's a option of face matches different names to see if they see other people who look like the photo they uploaded. So someone who, for whatever reason, is not using their real name in where this person met them, whether in person or via OnlyFans, even a stripper at the club who gave them their
Yeah.
dancer name, not their real name, or just someone who just for whatever reason didn't feel safe giving a real name or a real phone number or real identifying information. The fact that you can search for just by photo and like leave off names and find, and they have an option for, well, maybe you got the name wrong. I think that kind of gives the game away of what the real point of this is.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that there is a genuine concern of, well, it's right photo, wrong name, letting someone
You
get
don't
away
have
scot
someone's right
free, but
name. Why are you fucking looking for them? Like, if you don't know someone's name, why should you be able to find them? I just like
because I can tell you, I've had friends, all women, go figure, who have rejected guys on dating apps,
yeah.
who have then had them crop up either in one of their social medias, including ones that are not attached to the name that they have
Oh
on the
yeah.
app,
Yep.
who found them, got into their DMs, and were like,
Yep.
"Hey, saw you on here. Wanted to ask you, why didn't we connect on Tinder? Why didn't we connect on whatever?"
Uh,
Or even worse, someone who connected with them on LinkedIn,
oh
then finding
Jesus,
them on
no.
Tinder. Like,
No. Look. Here's the thing. If you connected with someone on a dating app and then a date never happened, don't find them on another platform. Just first of all, that's fucking creepy. But second of all, do you want to be with someone you have to hunt down for them to even show up for a first date? Like, is that what you think you deserve in life? Is someone who's so blasé about you that they can't even manage to message you back on a dating app? Is that what you want? I don't want that. Don't you want more for yourself? Like, beyond the it's creepy and entitled and fucked up, like, is that really what you're looking for? Is someone who doesn't want you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can answer that one. It's because they think that they deserve to be given a chance. It's not that they're not thinking this person doesn't want me. They're thinking it's not fair, and they think that there is some sort of like way of negating their no. And as opposed to being like, all right, this person isn't interested, moving on. They're like, no, I want this person specifically, and I think they owe me for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it's hard, you know, I am sympathetic to people who feel like they have a hard time meeting people. I am sympathetic to people who fall hard for someone and are, hurt that they don't like them back the way that they want them to. But the cases of jumping from place to place to place, it is really just down to I don't feel like you're allowed to say no to me, and I feel like
Yeah.
I am entitled to as many tries as it takes. And honestly, so much of pop culture and so much of mainstream culture valorizes this.
And like the thing is, you could be the best person in the world and people might still say no to you. Like
Mhm.
life is not fair and people are going to say no. And you just have to figure out how to deal with that. Like I think that so much of this is about, dudes will sack a city rather than go to therapy.
Mhm.
Um
Yeah,
and not all dudes, not only dudes, but like I feel like so much of this entitlement is something that is very much coded into the way that we socialize boys. That like they are owed these things. They are automatically good people, and anyone who says that they're not good people is wrong, and they should be given a chance. You actually aren't owed a chance.
Mhm.
Everybody doesn't have to give you a chance. They can decide to write you off for literally no reason. And does that suck and it's an unfair? Yeah. And also, you got to deal with that shit.
Yeah, and it's the unfair part that always gets me because it's like, yeah, of course it's unfair. Fair has nothing to do in dating. What makes something fair? Because once you start saying, well, they should be willing to give you a chance or at least, not reject you right away, maybe go on a date with you. It's like, cool. I'm just going to now come up with a list of all the people you would never want to be on a date with who you now have to be willing to give them a chance.
Yeah.
And
Like,
a
are
lot of
you
times
giving
it,
every person who's interested in you a chance?
yeah,
No? Then grow the fuck up. You're not
yeah.
special.
Whatever category you think would automatically disqualify someone, up to and including being, not being the gender that you normally date or sleep with, do they get a fair chance with you? Do you have to, sit there and give them the full consideration of a date? Most people, I think, would say no. And
Yeah,
yeah, because otherwise, what is fair? And specifically, who is this fair to?
right. And I think it's this way that culture teaches those socialized as boys that like they are owed women's attention and they are owed women's care and consideration. They are owed a chance no matter what. But like that's not true. You're not. And when it comes to this cheating stuff, I just like again, I think this app is primarily not going to be used by people who are trying to find folks who are cheating. I think it's primarily going to be used by creeps.
Yeah.
And again, even if you do think your partner is cheating, the answer is to have a conversation and then decide if you can trust them. That's it. Like, that's it. Because they can never prove to you they're not cheating. And if you don't believe them and you don't think you can trust them, you need to not be in that relationship. Whether that's a you thing or a them thing doesn't actually matter. You need to not be in that relationship because either you have shit in you that you need to work on about trusting people, or your gut is telling you something about them that makes you not want to trust them, which could be valid. But like, regardless, there's no trust in that relationship. So there is no relationship. Like,
Yeah.
without trust, there isn't a relationship. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. And, on there's still also issues like maybe they're not worried about their current partner cheating, but they've been cheated on before, and now that they are gun shy, they are always on hyper vigilant and always on the lookout for it, and using apps like this to try to find proof. And the problem is that you will find proof if you look for it hard enough. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean the proof is real,
No.
but if you look for something hard enough, you're going to find something that's going to validate it, and you may have to just twist it into shape to make it work, but it will be validated.
If you're
And
looking for a
that's
reason to fight, if you're
yeah.
looking for a reason something won't work, you will find it. You
And the
will. There
really
is always a reason to find.
And the
Always.
really frustrating thing is this works backwards too. This is all just confirmation bias. You could hack your confirmation bias. If you're gonna find what you're looking for, start looking for positive things.
Yeah.
This is advice that I give out to people that they always kind of roll their eyes out at me. But if you go into situations choosing to believe that the best is going to happen, that people already like you, that people are going to respond positively to you, you're gonna find evidence that this is true.
Yeah. When I was in the army, we had resilience training, and one of the skills we were taught was hunt the good stuff. Now, I could go on a whole separate rant about how that resilience training was like basic CBT skills that they gave slightly different names to in the classic history of IO Psych. That's the way IO Psych does stuff. But hunt the good stuff is so real. We are going to find what we look for. People who
Mhm.
practice gratitude have better moods. They feel better, they sleep better, they work better. There's always going to be things for you to be upset about and panic about. I'm not telling you to ignore all those things. I'm not saying dive into toxic positivity, but I am saying that if you're in a relationship, what is good about it, right? What are the signs that this person does care about you? I think that so many of us, particularly if we have trauma, particularly if we've had
Yeah.
wounds to our attachment system, it is very easy for us to look at, oh, these are the signs that they're going to leave me, that they're not that into me, that these like blah, 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 right? Don't focus on that in a disproportionate way, right?
Yeah.
Don't ignore things that are real, but what if you trusted that what your partner said was true, right? One of the things that helped me with this personally was seeing a reframe of it of someone kept telling their partner, I feel like you're going to leave me. I feel like you're going to like not want to be with me anymore, that I'm not going to be good enough for you. And the partner said to them, wow, it really hurts that you see me like that. Because that is what's happening is you're coming up with a story about this person being the kind of person who would lie to you and pretend to be something they aren't and tell you stories. And like, is that the story you believe about your partner? Because I think we frame it as like, no, I believe that I am broken and unlovable, and that's why they would do these things. But it's two pieces there, and you need to acknowledge both of them. And I think when we acknowledge the ways that we are being shitty about who our partner is, it helps us reframe that. But you, again, in a relationship, you're never going to be able to 100% know. Like if you think someone is cheating and you don't think you can trust them, if it's yours and you feel like you can unpack it and want to, go for that. But if not, you need to break up. It is better to break up. I feel like I'm always the person who's like, fucking break up. A good breakup is so much better than dragging it out until you fucking hate each other. Like once you have those resentments building, you need to address those if the relationship is going to continue, or you need to break up before it gets so bad you can never talk to each other again.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who said it. I want to say it was Esther Perel, but I think I'm misremembering that it's better to be alone because you're lonely. It's better to be lonely because you're alone than it is to be lonely because you're with the wrong person.
Yes.
And yeah, this is exactly what you were saying. Like there are a lot of times where it's just the breakup is scary, the being single is scary, the feeling that you're not going to find someone is scary, but it's better than living in not in a panopticon, whether you're the one being observed or you're the one doing the observing. I mean, it's got to be exhausting looking for all of the evidence and living as though you feel like you're in a spy movie trying to prove that someone is a double agent.
Well, and
And
we've talked about this advice before that like if the only thing that is going to make your life worthwhile and have meaning is having a partnership, you are fucking doomed because that is way too much pressure to put on one relationship. Like, make yourself a rich, beautiful life that is fulfilling and worth living with a
mm,
partner or without. Because then when you have partnership, it adds to a beautiful life you already have. It's not the like one load bearing piece of your entire happiness. I think so many of us are taught in this culture that that one romantic relationship is the thing that's going to make you happy and fulfilled. And we need more than that. We as humans are not built for that. The nuclear family is a tool of capitalism to keep us oppressed and buying shit. The more that you build rich lives full of connection and community and activity and passion and joy and beauty, the easier it is for you to be able to say, actually, this thing isn't working. I'm going to let it go.
I feel like there's a joke in here about nuclear disarmament of the nuclear family, but I'm just not able to come up with it. We've been getting kind of heavy here, so I kind of want to lighten the mood just a little bit before
Cool.
we draw the curtain on
We
this
wrap,
one.
yeah.
But since we were talking about like identifying people from other places, has there been a point where someone has recognized you from either your professional or your personal life in a way that was like, oh, you knew me vaguely from my personal life and now you've discovered my professional side, or vice versa? Has that ever happened to you?
Both, yeah. So in my prison job, one of the recreational therapists one day was like, hey, so Instagram showed me your profile, and like, for context, at the prison when I was working there, I was working in the psychiatric inpatient program. And so I wore every day a wig, a shoulder length brown wig, and a N95 mask. I did not look like me at this job, but Instagram had decided that this person should find my profile. Luckily, this person was a dyke, so it was great. Like, we connected, it was fine. But, like, boy, howdy, was I
That is still a
uncomfortable with that.
terrifying level of
Mm
like
hmm.
that.
Mm hmm.
Whew, now I'm trying to
Because our
think how that
phones
must
had
have
been in the
worked.
same
That must have,
parking lot. Here's the
yeah, I
thing,
was
our
going to say
phones were
that
in the
must have
same
been a
parking lot.
geofencing thing.
Obviously, we should know each other. Yeah, no. And then on the flip side, I, especially if I'm at like a sex positive kink non-monogamy event, I get recognized a lot. And so I remember one year I was at Folsom Street Fair and I was just walking around with some friends and someone was like, "Oh my god, you're Dr. Liz." And I was like, "Cool. Yeah, great. Let's move." It happens. I have been occasionally star fucked, which is very uncomfortable. I don't like it. Some people I found, there is somewhat of a gender breakdown on this, that like there are some cis men who very much enjoy being star fucked and like being recognized and having like their fans try to hook up with them. For me, it felt profoundly uncomfortable because I didn't find out they were star fucking me until after we had finished our scene. And then I was like, there was a whole power dynamic here that I did not get to properly negotiate. And I feel really not okay with that. How about you, Harris?
I've had it happen in a couple of different ways, both of which were weird. There was one time that happened before I was even Dr. Nerdlove. It was back when I was still a part of the Leog. And I was at a bookstore and I was like talking to somebody. I think I was asking about I was trying to find a particular book. And a guy behind me said, "Oh, hey, you're from the Leog." And I was just like, "You recognized me from my voice? Okay." Fortunately, turned out really cool guy. We were actually really good friends. He's part of my social circle. He's an awesome dude. So it was like very cool how it all turned out. But at the time it was like, I am not used to this. I'm, still not used to being more than just a voice in a crowd. I am not a celebrity. What the hell just happened? Same thing. I've been out and about downtown and someone yelled out across the bar, "Dr. Nerdlove." And I was like, "Me?"
Was
And
it
yeah,
you?
because they recognized me from when I was doing YouTube.
Yeah.
But the weirdest one that ever happened to me shortly after the pandemic, when everyone, we're all getting vaccinated and we could all start going out again. And I had recently gotten some new tattoos, and my artist, as artists will do, took photos of the tattoos and put them onto his portfolio on Instagram. So here I am hiking in the Greenbelt in Austin, just minding my own business. I've got my ear friends, as I like to put it, as I'm listening to like Critical Role while I'm going on these long, long walks using parasocial relationships to feel like I've got company because I
Fair.
was coming out of isolation like everyone else. And someone comes up to me and goes, "Hey, did you work with name of tattoo artist?" And I was like, "Yes." "Why? How do you know this?" And they were like, "Oh, because because these tattoos." I was like, "I recognize them." And I was just kind of like, "Okay, that
I
this
don't
is
like
more
that.
somehow this was more uncomfortable than someone recognizing me as a Z-list internet celebrity." Like
Oh yeah, you and me on
that
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 Z
was the
list.
part where it's just kind of like, I don't even know how to respond to this. I don't know. Someone was able to clock who I was by looking at my ink and recognizing it off the bat, which testimony to the skill of the artist. They're great tattoos, but it still was just a very weird moment for me,
It's
and
weird.
just
Yeah.
just one of those moments of like, yeah, I understand why people get uncomfortable of being recognized in public, especially because whenever someone says like, "Oh wait, you're so and so, you're Dr. Nerdlove, I read your stuff," and my first response is always like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah, you probably have this experience also. Not infrequently, I will get a message from a friend that they were on a date with someone who brought up my book or my videos, and they were like, "Oh, I know that person." Or like the weirdest one recently, someone I had dated back in like 2014 in Savannah, Georgia. His current partner was a huge fan of mine, and so she was telling him about it. He's like, "Oh, I used to date that person like a decade ago."
I've had very similar things from a friend of mine saying having someone from her family saying, "Have you ever heard of this guy, Dr. Nerdlove?" And she was like, "Know him, heard of him. I created him." And to be fair, she did indirectly. I've talked about this on the column before. She was the relationship I had before I really fell into the pickup scene. But I think the one that just kind of made me kind of blow my mind was someone telling my mom about how, like, her son was having struggles trying to date, and then their psychologist turned them on to this internet guy, Dr. Nerdlove, and my mom just choked on her coffee right then and there. I think that was possibly the first time she ever had a moment of like, oh, this isn't just a fake job he does. Like, people actually pay attention to it. So that was weirdly gratifying, but also there are just
A
moments of
little
there
horrifying.
are beams that should not be crossed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, okay, I think we both agree cheat busters, terrible fucking idea. Terrible
Yeah,
fucking
you,
idea.
any of these facial recognition to find people's social profiles is just horrifying on
Yeah.
so many levels. Like, if you don't see the Black Mirror episode happening, I don't know what's wrong.
It's so bad. Please don't. Please don't. Thank you, Harris, for hurting me. I take so much psychic damage from today's podcast.
I trust that you're going to just whip that right back at me next time. So I am gingerly looking forward to you bringing out your inner sadist and me having to
Just
just
you
sit there
wait.
going like, wait, what was the safe word? What was the safe word? Oh God.
See, now I'm tempted to find something really fucked up to bring, because like you also brought us nutmaxers, and I'm gonna have to read that at some point, and I can't bleach my brain, so I don't know how I'm ever gonna get rid of that.
Oh God, we're gonna get so many comments about all of this, starting
Love
with
us
Google
all.
going like, "Yeah, you can't monetize this anymore. No ads for you."
Demonetized. We could have the uncensored version on Patreon and then have a bleeped version on YouTube. Because Patreon don't fucking care, but
Hmm.
YouTube has feelings. Though I have heard it only cares about the first part of your thing. After like the first part, it doesn't care anymore. Apparently, though who knows? They're always changing. The algorithms are always changing. Thank God
So
we
if
have
you
opaque overlords determining if we get to make money.
So, on the off chance that you are watching us on YouTube or Instagram or literally anywhere else, be sure to like, share, and subscribe because
Yes.
otherwise we may just disappear and you'll never know where we went. If you're
Send us to your
listening to
friends. Send
us,
us to your parents. Send us to your enemies.
yeah, definitely tell your enemies to send in their most personal questions. We will definitely handle them with care.
We should set up like a voicemail box so people can call us and leave fucked up messages. I'm down.
Oh, I could see that going so badly. We should probably do
We'll have
that.
someone pre-screen it. We'll pay someone a lot of money to pre-screen it for us.
If you're speaking of pre-screening, if you're finding us on your favorite podcatcher, do us a favor. You give us a review, give us some stars, let people know that you like us. If you hate us, let people know anyway, because honestly, hate views and hate
Yeah, actually
listens
it works.
process
Yeah.
exactly the same. In fact,
Yeah.
throw a couple of hate dollars in the Ko-Fi and we'll call it square. Otherwise, Dr. Liz, where can people find you online?
My website is drlizpowell.com. My Patreon is patreon.com/drliz. I'm on all the social medias at Dr. Liz Powell.
And you can find me at Dr. Nerdlove, all spelled out, all one word.com. You can find me on Blue Sky, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Donner, on Blitzen, on Patreon as Dr. Nerdlove. And you can find both of us as Do As We Say at Do As We Say Pod on our website, on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, the podcatchers, and any other social media that happens to come up. And we're going to leave you there and saying, as we always do as we say, not as
Not
they
as
did.
they did.
We're going to actually get the timing on this right at some point.
It doesn't need to be good timing. That's the whole point. It's adorable that we're not well timed. Someday. Maybe if we record in person, it'll be easier. I feel like virtual, it's hard to get timing.
Yeah.